We are starting right now. Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. It's Joey, it's Paul, and we've got Coach Joe Taylor joining us today. Joe Taylor, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Thanks. How are you?
Hi, Joe. Good. Hi, Joe. Hi, Joe.
Joe. Too many Joes around here, apparently.
Joe Taylor's first time on a podcast. She's a little bit nervous. Don't feel bad. No one can see your face.
I'm nervous every week.
Are you?
Yeah.
There's always a little bit of nerves, right?
You look very relaxed.
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul's pretty relaxed. We've done a few of these now. It's episode 104 or 103. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Today we're chatting about weightlifting, and it's something we've spoken about this on other episodes of the podcast. It's kind of important to us. Lifting weights, not the sport of weightlifting, but lifting weights is a big part of the Jungle Brothers methodology. And then within lifting weights, you've got weightlifting, which is an Olympic sport, and that's really what your background is in, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's kind of cool to give a bit of context to folks, because for a lot of people, it's all one and the same, right? Mm. They can liken it to, it's like, are you lifting weights? Yeah, it's bodybuilding. Like there's no understanding of the nuances within that realm. Mm. Joe, can you introduce, like, how did you get into weightlifting?
Yep. So do you want me to give a little bit of a breakdown as to what weightlifting is compared to kind of powerlifting, which it gets mixed up all the time. And you say to people, I do Olympic weightlifting, and they say, how much can you bench? And I'm like, I don't bench press ever. Well, sometimes, but very rarely. So, I mean, the Olympic weightlifting is two complex barbell movements. One is snatch, the second is clean and jerk. So it's only two movements, but they're both very highly skilled movements with the barbell. Whereas powerlifting is more of a just raw strength sport. So it's just a squat, bench, deadlift. So my specific journey is I started with a little bit of powerlifting. Well, before that, I kind of went, I used to dance a lot. So dancing kind of took me to pole dancing.
Okay.
Which
I didn't know this.
Yeah,
Surprised me.
yeah. So I loved to dance when I was younger. Pole dancing, I did that for a couple of years, and you've got to be really strong, like the upper body strength you need for that. Like you've got Luffy here, and she does pole dancing, and you need a lot of strength required. So that kind of led me to, going in the weights room of the gym and starting to do bodybuilding and going in with a mate and just getting him to show me, just the old bodybuilding thing. And then that kind of led to powerlifting. And then I saw somebody do Olympic weightlifting in the gym, and I was like, that's so cool. I want to do that. So yeah, that
was your start.
Yeah, that was the start. Yeah, I just saw somebody doing it in the gym that I was, just throwing around weights, doing not really powerlifting, but kind of, bodybuilding, powerlifting, kind of that thing. And then I was like, I want to learn to Olympic weightlift. It's cool.
How long ago was this?
So back when I lived in Edinburgh. So what, 8 years ago?
Okay.
Something like that.
How long have you been here for in Sydney?
7.5. Yeah, so it'd be longer than that. So yeah, a while ago.
What was the, going into the weights room 8 years ago or thereabouts?
Yeah.
What was the scene like in Edinburgh? Were there a lot of women in there lifting weights?
Not really. No. So yeah, this would have been when I was maybe late teens. I think now it's very common to see women in lifting weights, but less common probably 10 years ago now. So it was really intimidating. And I think women still feel like that. And that's why I said I got my guy mate to come in with me and show me the way around the the barbells and the dumbbells and stuff like that. So yeah, really intimidating point, to go into that area. But I was like, yeah, got my mate, I'll be fine. And then just confidence grew from there, and really enjoyed strength training.
And so when you say, so the comparison, powerlifting is like raw strength, weightlifting is two highly complex movements. To simplify that for folks, could you say that powerlifting is the lifts, which are squat, bench press, and deadlift? They're generally not particularly complex, right? They don't require a lot of mobility.
No.
Pretty much anyone can do them to the degree that it's needed.
Yes, absolutely.
Fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. They're less complex movements. A deadlift, you're taking the barbell from the ground to just a standing position. None of the lifts go overhead. So yes, like a huge amount of mobility. is required for Olympic weightlifting, whereas powerlifting a lot less so. But yeah, obviously powerlifters need to be very, very strong, and Olympic weightlifters need to be strong and mobile as well.
Where did you start that whole journey here in Australia? I know you used to train at Lift. I think
I did.
That was, I don't know if I met you back then, but I knew you from back then.
No. Yeah. So what happened was I was kind of staying with my family and I was kind of jumping around. I hadn't quite, found a place to live and kind of just trying out gyms and, hadn't really found somewhere to weightlift yet. I knew I wanted to do it, but I hadn't found anywhere. So just jumped around some gyms, kind of did a little bit of CrossFit, not much, but just kind of. I know. I say that in disgust, but no, I did a little bit of CrossFit, and then I actually ended up in a CrossFit gym who had an Olympic weightlifting club. So it's called CrossFit Sydney, and
in Alexandria.
Yes, that's the one, just off McAvoy Street. So I ended up going there. Wasn't living too far away, and joined their weightlifting club. So that would have been 2014. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Paulie, when we went by there, when we were looking at locations for Jungle Brothers originally?
No.
And we widened our search outside of Surrey Hills. Mm-hmm. And then we were looking around Alexandria, and I think it was the three of us. I'm sure it was you, Tior, and myself. And we were looking at a spot right across the road from CrossFit Sydney.
Okay.
And we were like, wow, this place is pretty sick. But we're like, that gym over there is like really fucking well established. I think there was only about 10 CrossFit gyms in Sydney at the time.
Yes.
And that's one of the oldest.
He was
standing.
one of them first.
Yeah.
And he got the best name, right? What do you Google when you want to go to a CrossFit gym? CrossFit Sydney.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And we're like, you know what? Like, we don't have an issue being across the road from the gym, but maybe not this one.
Not for our first gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they had a pre-established weightlifting club. So quite a few very good lifters, and we did do official competitions and stuff like that. So, it was a good place for me to start off. And went to Lift after, I think, 2 years there.
Yeah, okay. Paulie, you've been doing a bit of weightlifting of late.
Not the last couple of months, but I have. Backed off.
Tell us about that.
I've just been prioritizing a few other things at the moment, but it's probably going to make a return. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. And I always want to stay connected somewhat because I teach the lift program here.
Yes.
So I kind of feel it's my responsibility to be able to, and especially with Joe coming in the last two phases and bringing back the Olympic lifts, you really have to keep those movement patterns pretty sharp if you want to be able to, coach them as well as demonstrate them, which you need to do in class. So I guess, I have been throwing them around, at least once a week. But it's not a main focus at the moment, but I do enjoy it. I love it. And when you talk about the powerlifting versus the Olympic lifting, I mean, I had a different kind of experience learning how to lift weights. Pretty much I already came into an area with Joe and T where they were showing me Olympic lifting, and I enjoyed that from the get-go, and powerlifting doesn't quite make sense for me from more of a movement sporting background, and I really love the speed strength involved with Olympic lifting.
Yeah. So where did you learn?
Aspect. I just learned here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned with Joe and T.
That's why he's so good at it.
So I'm so good at it. From the old gym coming into here, and then probably the most influential was co-coaching with Yazzie Carter, who was our and I was beside her for 3 hours a week for many months, and then just going from there, and she was always giving me good feedback, and so I just learnt from here, it's a great sport.
It's a frustrating sport.
Yeah, it's a frustrating.
But that's why I love it. I love the challenge. For me, powerlifting is there's not enough of a challenge involved. I like the skill of it and makes me think. But at the same time, it's you get to a point you can get there quite quickly with just your strength, and if the technique isn't there, you're just not going to progress. And so it's a very slow, long sport to get good level.
What are those? Break down the frustrations. Like, what is it that you experience?
I guess getting stuck on a certain weight and just not being able to break past that. You're like, I've been on, this weight for so long, and finally when you do break that, it's by a very small amount, a kilo, a couple of kilos, you know, so just not seeing the numbers go up that quickly. And then other times where the lift, where your positioning isn't correct and, you know, you're missing the lifts, it's always going forwards or it's always going backwards, and you know, something's wrong with the technique, but you know, you have to really break it down and figure out what's actually happening.
Can I ask you, because I don't really know, so you were lifting, you went to lift. When did you start competing, and like what's your competition experience? Because I want to get a gauge for what level you're at for me and for folks. Because you're talking about the little things that are frustrating for you at your level. But obviously before that, you know,
context.
There's so much more that's frustrating before that if you're a newbie.
Yeah. So I started competing when I was at the CrossFit Sydney gym. Part of their weightlifting club. So I first competed in 2015, I believe it was. So I actually did my first competition at the gym I'm training at now, which is Odd Socks, which is a completely only Olympic weightlifting gym out at North Strathfield. And they do open competitions. So basically anybody can come in and they can lift. It doesn't matter if you've never lifted before. You could sign up and go up and do your 3 lifts of each of snatch, clean and jerk, and that's you done a competition. But it's not official. It's a little in-house run competition. And then you've got your competitions that are state level, then national level, and then obviously international level. So with state, you basically have to be a member of the association, which is the New South Wales Weightlifting Association. All the different states have their own separate associations. And then you compete within your state. So competitions are held throughout the year. Those are official competitions. You need to have a membership with them. And then you pay your membership and you go and lift in the competition. And then your totals and your they all get recorded. And that's competitions you do and progress up to national level and then, you know, international level. So I did quite a few competitions within New South Wales. I made one national competition back in, I think it was, when did I compete? Early 2018. So that was my big national. So everybody from all the states would compete in the Australian Open, I think it was, up in Brisbane. So that was a big deal for me, that getting to that kind of national level rather than just competing in the States. So you have to record a certain total to be able then to enter that national level competition. And that experience was amazing. I didn't do very well in the competition, made a few mistakes on my prep and stuff like that. And don't believe my coaching was the best going into that, but it doesn't matter. I still am quite proud of the fact that I did that. And yeah, it was a big one for me. I really enjoyed it.
I think you should be because even without competition, like when you're lifting here in the gym, I find it can be quite nerve-wracking, you know, to throw up a lift that's starting to get heavy, just because of the missed lift and there's nerves involved. And there's, you know, you have your routines and there's things moving around you often. And the missed lift, there's like fear in it. I can't imagine what that's like when you're at a competition level.
Yeah, you've got all these people staring at you. The adrenaline is just pumping. And that's something I was really bad at first when I started competing, is not managing the stress of a competition. And just getting myself too worked up, too nervous. And then it just all went to shit on the platform. So managing those nerves is a huge part of competing and being able to kind of keep yourself a bit more calm. And it's a skill.
It's a brutal thing to have only that one moment,
split second,
of athleticism, to do it. You know, I think about it in relative to jiu-jitsu. And I always think about that when I'm going to compete. It's been a long time actually doing a comp in a couple of months, but I always think, oh, what if you get subbed in like the first minute of the first match? But I've still had a minute to perform, whereas you've literally got like a split second and you do or you don't, and that's it. Like, you know, I know you get more than one attempt, but it's very brief, isn't it?
It's brief. And you get 1 minute. There's quite a few rules in weightlifting. You get 1 minute from the timer going on to you taking the barbell off of the platform floor. So you've got that 1 minute to get your lift done, and then like you said, Joey, we've got 3 attempts at each lift, but you have to make one of your attempts in the snatch to then progress to clean and jerk. So say you missed 2 snatches and you've got your third to do, that is when the pressure then comes in a competition. Because if you miss that third one, then you're out. You can't complete in clean and jerk and record a total. So that's when you'd have to deal with that pressure when you're higher level.
Is there any reason why that's the order? Snatch in order to clean and jerk?
Is there a reason why it's snatch then clean and jerk?
Yeah.
I think because snatch is more technical. Lighter. And you're going to be lifting lighter weights. I'm not too sure why it's snatch first, but I think it's because it's lighter.
Is that throughout all competitions?
Like
whether it's here, state. That's just the format.
That's the format in Olympic weightlifting.
And how about the fact that you won't progress to clean and jerk if you don't catch 3 snatches? Is that's also how all competitions
just one of the rules?
are
run? Yeah.
Oh wow.
Savage.
It is.
So then you might have people who are not pushing the weight in the snatch, so you kind of got to play to your strengths and be strategic about it.
Yeah, it can become that way. Like people will think to stay a little bit, to get a total and to be competitive, you might, like your first lift, you'll go a little bit lighter, something you can hit, and then you've recorded your total, and then you can use the other 2 to push it. But it all depends on the day, how you're feeling and how you're performing. And sometimes you just don't perform. Everything can be fine, you feel good, but the weights it just doesn't happen. And that's for some reason the way it can be in Olympic weightlifting. Things just don't always go to plan. But yeah, just managing that pressure on the platform.
Have you ever watched that? There's a clip on YouTube. It's the Greek weightlifter versus the Turkish weightlifter from the 1980s.
No, but I would love Olympics. To watch that.
Oh, it's so fucking cool. It's so cool. It's Naim Solimoglu, I believe is his name. He's competing for Turkey.
Yeah.
But he is Albanian.
Yeah.
He's from somewhere on the on the eastern side, that part of Europe. And he's a tiny little guy.
Yeah.
And then he's competing against a Greek guy. I can't remember his name.
I'm impressed that you remember the first name.
I know.
I've watched it a few times.
Good pronunciation.
Solimoglu.
Yeah, Solimoglu.
Just pull that one out of the memory bank.
But they, but it's like 20. It's so like it makes the hairs all over you stand up.
Okay.
It's because it was at a time I think there were big tensions between Greece and Turkey, so everything's riding on this. And these 2 guys went into the finals. Like again, they're the 2 guys left. And I don't remember. I know who won. I won't tell you because you guys should watch it afterwards. And if you're listening, Google that shit. Go like Greek weightlifter
in the
80s Olympics. We can put it in the show notes. 100%. But I think as they're going head to head, they broke like the world record like multiple times.
Wow.
Yeah, because and you can see their coaches. Like it's really, but it just embodies, like it gives you an insight into how fucking intense that moment of execution is.
And can you imagine the athletes that go to the Olympics that 4+ years in training for that small amount of time where they have that to lift that amount of weight, and that's all they work on, and that's their lives for so long. And then I don't know how they manage that pressure. That's
to think that you could have an off day. It seems so unfair, but it's also. It's incredible that people are able to perform at that level.
Yes, it's amazing. Watching Olympic weightlifters at that level of the Olympics is unreal. I find that amazing to watch. Yeah.
I think, and I haven't really studied much like strength and conditioning, but I think for maybe power athletes, or for the attribute of power, you're tapering into that, and your zone to hit your peak performance is only like 2 to 5 days or something like that. Whereas for cardio athletes or athletes who express those other long endurance athletes, they can keep that level of fitness over something like 30 plus days or something like that. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So you really have to like taper in almost perfectly and be right on the zone there for people doing kind of weightlifting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's a tough one for like the trainers. Like going into, any number of things can happen, getting sick or not sleeping, a few weeks out, and it just kind of rocking everything as you're building towards this 4-year moment.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, going back to like the beginner kind of piece for weightlifting, something that stands out, I think, to everybody when they try like weightlifting for the first time is, and when we say weightlifting, we're talking about Olympic weightlifting, right? Just to be clear on that, is the mobility that's required and how fucking hard it is to get into some of these positions.
Yeah.
Can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah. When I started, I don't think my mobility was that good. But you got to work on it. When you start doing it, you have to factor in the fact you're going to do mobility work unless you're somebody who moves well anyway. But yeah, getting into when you go into a gym, how many people do you actually see just doing an overhead squat? It's a really complex movement, just doing an overhead squat, and the balance that you need, and it's difficult. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the majority of people can do a simple, not a simple overhead squat, but just an overhead squat without,
a deep one.
Yeah,
no way.
Being able to get into a nice stable bottom position in your squat. So yeah, having to factor in mobility is really, really important. And making sure you're just getting in that position in that deep squat, and then working on your overhead mobility and just trying to piece it all together. But when I started, I was, my mobility wasn't that great, and I probably should have worked at it more. But, I've done it for a while now, and I think mobility's gotten better, but still not perfect.
It's definitely tough for adults starting to do it.
Yes.
Just because your mobility is generally a lot worse depending on what life you've led, but it's always going to be worse than if you were naturally mobile or you're a young person beginning to do it.
Or if you start doing when you're 6 or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which I think they do in China, that kind of thing. You start them off very, very young.
Yeah, I think like in those big weightlifting nations, it's like you wouldn't get into the Olympic program unless you started before you were like 7 or 8 years old, huh?
Yes. And you got to be like perfectly suited for the sport, right? Your proportions have got to be right, and yeah. The
mobility thing is it's very interesting because weightlifting has been popularized largely by CrossFit, and that's what has brought it to, in a sense, to mainstream fitness. I mean, you can see now that there's a lot of big gyms out there, Fitness First, that kind of thing. They have a couple of weightlifting platforms, and they've got the bumper plates. That's weightlifting gear. And so people want to get into it, but I think for a lot of folks, it's very hard to get coaching on it that's at a high level. And I think most people aren't prepared to do the mobility work that's required to be able to do it at a reasonable level. I see a lot of people just sort of grinding through shitty positions. I'm sure you would see this yourself.
Yeah.
Because, whatever, they're programming their own training, or they're just going off something they saw on YouTube, and you're like, oh fuck, your wrists, your shoulders look really bad there.
Yes. Yeah. So just having to get your mobility at a point where you can actually get into those positions somewhat, and then, keep improving it as you learn the sport. You can still learn the technique, but as soon as you get starting weight on the bar, you need to be able to get into those positions.
Yeah. So there is a place then, it's like for people who don't have the adequate mobility now, say someone who comes into a class, it's like, you can do the positions, you can work on this with an empty bar or a broomstick or whatever it needs to be, but you're not going to be able to load it up until you can show that you're in good positions.
Yeah, or even if you start working to the power positions, so that's where we catch the barbell higher, we catch it above parallel with our thigh, that would be a power, so you're not going into a deep full squat. So if somebody had really bad mobility and they couldn't get into a deep squat, then you start them off catching the bar high in that power position.
Okay.
I
like that.
If mobility is really bad,
what do you guys coach so Joe, you're the head coach of our lift program.
I am, yes.
The title. Paulie, you are Joe's assistant coach on the Wednesday night.
Yes, I am.
Is that right?
Yes.
Co-coach?
Co-coach, yeah.
How do you guys manage that? Like in a class setting, how much time are you spending on mobility? What are you saying to folks one-to-one about, because I'm guessing there's plenty of people you see, you're like, you need to work on this stuff. How do you go about that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, just as an overall kind of approach to it, I guess because we've been talking about the sporting part of it mainly, and there's a mobility requirement to do it well, and there's a mobility requirement to progress well, as in put more weight. Because for people who don't know really what we're talking about, is you need better mobility to lift heavier weights. Yeah. Because the heavier weight, you can't throw it up above your head. You need to get underneath it. Yeah. You need to get deep underneath it. And then you need to be able to put it overhead, sort of thing. So I guess I'm saying, I see it as really useful for a beginner to come in and, in the Jungle Brothers model, to come and be trying to doing Olympic lifting. And, not everyone has has to be trying to get to a certain, lift. They want to be able to do a deep snatch at a certain weight or anything like that. So I think it's, from my perspective, I really like that people are in there trying to do it. And I look at them and think, as this mother or father of a few kids and busy, they're probably never going to experience good loads or over even 5 years or something of doing it. But I like I still encourage everyone to keep with it, because it's an otherwise expression that we don't always get. It plays a part in the whole Jungle Brothers model. Without it, there's a lot of strength training without the speed component to it and the coordination component to it. I mean, there is with kettlebells and stuff and strength and movement stuff. But so I guess, I'm always encouraging people to do it. I want to keep them engaged with it and build some context around it, because if it gets too sporty for some people and too specific, like, we might lose them, where we've
noticed that in the past many times, haven't we? That when we get very heavy on the weightlifting, like the technical side of it.
Yep.
A lot of people, usually males, tend to go, fuck that.
Yes.
Because it's too much information. It's like the hill seems too large to climb.
That's what I mean.
And you have to...
They may never get there.
Yeah. Which is really interesting. And, it's I think there's equal parts we understand, but then there's also another part that's like, well, maybe you need more of the thing that you're bad at. Like maybe that's what's good for you. But you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I acknowledge that when people are around but in the actual classes, I mean, we reduce range for people, right? We, instead of working from the floor to overhead, they might just work from the knees to the shoulders or something like that. And there's many different ways, if you've ever been in a weightlifting class before, which you can reduce the complexity of the movement. That's how you start for people, right?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing a lot since I came on board. What you do with Olympic weightlifting is you break it down into smaller pieces for people to kind of understand and work through and know what the key positions are, and like I said, make it less complex by doing a power rather than worrying about having to get into full squat and worrying about the mobility aspect. It's like, let's just get these positions, get you understanding what we're trying to achieve, and then let's not worry about a full squat. We'll just get you going under the bar slightly and building up from there. But it's good that people are exposed to it and try it. It's challenging. It's something you think about. You're not just, it gets you thinking.
Totally.
So, yes, and understanding your body, where your body's moving, and exposes weaknesses.
You asked about totally it does, and it's an ongoing challenge.
Yes,
I think for a lot of our newer coaches who don't have as much Olympic lifting kind of background, it's definitely one of those classes where you're like, oh shit, how's this one going to go? Because it's a challenge depending on whoever our community comes in. It's really challenging because there's so many components or parts that are required to put into the whole, so you don't know which part you're dealing with on that particular day.
That's it, and so many people with different abilities. We've got Ali, Sue, they've been Olympic lifting for a while, and then you'll have somebody come in class and say, I don't know what Olympic weightlifting is. So trying to, and that's what we do as well in class, being Polly, make sure, I'll usually take everyone, take the beginners, and Paul, give everyone else a bit of coaching. So it just depends on who's in class, really.
Yeah.
That's cool. Sounds very similar to jiu-jitsu, how you have to manage that, where you get, you get a wide range of abilities, and say all right, let's split you guys up a little bit. You dudes do this, you guys work on that.
Yeah, so the program always has a warm-up with mobility and activation at the beginning.
I like what I see of that when I'm cruising through and you're doing your piece. Everyone's behind their bar, you're down opening up the hips and stuff. I really like that routine.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a routine because there's a lot to fit in. Yeah. So it's like everyone knows that portion does that. And we move straight into skill work from there.
Yeah.
And then there's strength after that, and then there's accessories, and that's kind of the way that Joe's written the program at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I mean, you have to learn the skill aspects of the lift. You have to do that with lighter loads. But having the strength element there is, there's a lot of people that are new to it who who aren't strong, like they have to progress with their strength in order for the skill portion to make sense to them, you know, and it's challenging to do, but I think the program is good right now for the level of lifters. It's great for anyone starting, and it works. It's just fine for those experienced lifters in the class, and they're just putting on more weight and increasing the range and stuff at the same time.
There's a lot of similarities, I think, between weightlifting and bodyweight strength. We did that episode ages ago on embracing the suck, which is really important in bodyweight training, because there's going to be portions where you just suck at it. Like you're just not strong enough, and you got to just keep doing these progressions and more volume and more time and more repetition. And then eventually you break through that and get to, you know, the next place. But that cycle always comes up. And I think that for a lot of people who are walking into a gym and like, oh, I want to get fit, you know, whatever, get in better shape, they're not necessarily ready to face the realities of skill acquisition. As is in bodyweight training and weightlifting. And when you're in there and you're like, holy fucking shit, like how long is it going to take for me to be able to do an overhead squat just with a broomstick? You know, like when is it going to look good, or when am I going to feel comfortable there, or when am I going to be able to finally do a chin up, you know, or a muscle up? And it's like we've always had high dosages of that in our gym, because we know that that's really where that's where the achievement is in training, and that's where the longevity in the methodology is, because there's always something to chase and something ahead of you. So it keeps you engaged in this sort of never-ending journey of acquiring new abilities. Whereas without that, if you didn't have that skill acquisition, it's just like more pushing, more pulling, more squatting, you're building your muscles. Like it's the same movements, right? It's the same shit. How do you frame that for folks when they're like, oh, I just, you know, I'm sure you would see that in the frustration. Oh, I still can't get this right. I'm fucking suck at the overhead squat. What do you tell them? You know, you're like, yeah, we'll just keep doing it for 2 years, or how do you deal with that?
I don't know. I tell people the sport's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You've got to put the hard work in, and it's all about repetition, and you gotta just keep doing it. It is repetitive sport. You know, you've got 3 movements, that you're doing over and over again in different ways. We've got a lot of different exercises to help us achieve the snatch, clean and jerk. But you just got to keep doing it, and it's going to take a while to actually make progress. And you know, just as long as you make sure you're you know, getting coached and not trying to rush it, and you know, you'll make progress quicker if you do those things right in the beginning, I'd say. But it's just it takes a while to get good at it. Takes a while.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the same. Like going back to what I said before, just keeping it within context for them. Because like it's very frustrating, say there's 15 minutes of tech work and, you know, you don't see much improvement in the 15 minutes at all. It's all about 15 minutes for 12 weeks or something like that. So trying to just, you know, and this is the coaching part, you're really just trying to coach individual, and everyone's a little different with their approach to a problem like this that's so complex. So sometimes you're trying to tell people to slow down and tell them, you know, whatever. It's a long game, like you said. And sometimes you're telling people to speed up. It's on an individual basis. But just kind of building that framework for them. It's the marathon type of thing. And that the skill part is very important for you to progress later on. So stick with that. The strength piece is coming later, and you can feel that good endorphin rush. You can lift heavy after that. And when you get to that part, I want you to focus on that and be pushing, getting your weight up, getting your depth going, work on your mobility, and you know, train hard there, but train kind of smart here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's almost like a different approach at different sections of the workout.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a lot of people trying to go too heavy in the skill part. It's like, this is not that time. That time is coming after this, and I'll let you go. You can go heavy after this. Yeah,
I mean, I guess a lot of folks may not necessarily know that, right? Coming from, say, if you came from something where it is just focused on working out like an F45 or something like that.
Yeah.
You've never been exposed to skill acquisition. So this idea of going slower, thinking more, trying harder, giving yourself rest, analyzing, reviewing, that process is almost completely new to some people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I see it with a lot of new people who do that skill part, and I know I can see them because they do their sets, and usually it's high repetition, lots of sets, and they stand there in between their sets and don't even look at someone else lifting.
Yes.
And I'm like, you need to talk to that guy or watch that person lifting. Like, these are the two people. Watch Alex lift, watch so-and-so lift, get familiar with, because they can't do it in front of a mirror. And if they're not filming themselves, they need some visual feedback. It's like, you got to get familiar with this lift. So for sure, people don't, you're right. Like, people won't know that, where I guess we're used to that here because we're a bodyweight program. It's all about partnership and cueing each other and getting to know the movement. Right. Yeah. And the Olympic lifting is really should be the same.
And martial arts, right?
And martial arts.
Yeah, like it's all that skill piece is in all of it.
Yeah, totally.
But I think part of it with lifting too, which is probably just when because you lay the room out in a grid formation, because that's the best way to run it. Like you've got these big implements, barbells. People who are towards the front don't necessarily want to turn around because they know there's like a whole line of people looking at them. So it's like you just keep facing forward in your rest periods until the coach says, hey, you should turn around and look. And then they're like enabled. Oh, you're there.
That's so true.
Yeah. That's a massive part of it is watching other people train, right? Yeah.
It is,
That's what I do when I'm training, is I'll watch everyone else do their lifts. Yeah.
Not like a foot away from their face when they're snatching.
Try not to.
Well, let's enable everyone tonight.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I used to love in that class. Sometimes I would do it too much, but I used to love putting on a YouTube video or something. Oh, like here's a sick fucking thing I saw. It. Like that guy Lou, the Chinese weightlifter, who does the like the overhead squat or like the squat jerk rather than the split jerk when he receives.
Yeah.
I love putting those videos on. Like, guys, come check this out, and like.
Well, you do that in the warm up, or
it depends. Before? I might do it in a warm up, or maybe if we get to a portion where there's like longer rest periods, like strength part.
Yep.
I'll be like, guys, I'm going to put this on. You have to do your sets, but in the rest periods, you can come and have a look at the TV.
Oh, maybe we should do that.
I used to do that too, like because I was in class when you used to do that, but I would only do that on the morning classes. Our classes are too busy, bro.
Too much going on, bro.
Oh, maybe I'll do that on a Friday.
Hey, I like that. Can I ask you, because I've never lifted in a weightlifting gym before. Yeah. Did the coaches? Oh no, I think we were talking about it. You said there's not heaps of group coaching going on. It's not classes that you're in.
No. So you'll come in and the coaches will be there.
Yep.
But to give you feedback when you need to feedback. Yep. Otherwise, you just get on with your training session. You're training with training partners. I'm trained with the same guys.
Oh, look, I guess I was just wondering because I wondered if they had a chalkboard, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and I was like there's many times, and not just in Olympic weightlifting in lift class, but like a little chalkboard with a piece of chalk or a whiteboard would really help just get one concept or one angle or something apart every now and then when you're coaching something. What do you think of that, Joe?
What, to draw a little diagram?
Draw a little diagram.
Little stick figures.
Yep. And I mean, I do it a lot with my clients, and in the classes, especially Monday night when it's not too busy, I film people all the time to show them what they look like. Because they see me and they feel the movement, but then when they see themselves, it just closes a loop. And the amount of time people say that is so good that you showed me that. Yeah. And I thought, a little whiteboard downstairs would be sick for us.
Dude, you know what you can do? I'm not sure how you would hook it up, but my mate used to do this. Have you used the app Coach's Eye?
No, I've seen it.
I have used that.
Coach, I mean, I used to use it. I care less about that these days. But if I were coaching weightlifting, it would be more of a valuable tool.
Yeah.
But he
would
would
on the screen.
Yeah, he would connect it to the screen.
Yeah.
So you could be reviewing someone on Coach's Eye, drawing some little lines and shit, and then you could project it on the screen and hey guys, check this out. I'm just breaking down so and so's squat here. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Something else. Think about it because I just feel like for me that's always been good for me to see myself on a video and kind of close that loop.
It's really, really important to watch yourself back. Yeah.
Do you, all right. So for someone who's starting with the weightlifting piece, like Joe, you work as a personal trainer, right?
I do. Yes.
You work at Virgin
Active. I do. Yeah.
Virgin Active. Very good. You're there full time?
Yes. Like pretty much full time.
When you're not here kind of thing.
Yep. That's it. Yeah.
Do you coach your clients there in weightlifting? Like, do all of them do some elements of it?
No. So I only have a few clients that learn Olympic weightlifting, and then the majority of people I strength train. But it depends on the person. I might kind of suggest it, that we maybe learn how to clean to start off with. But no, not everybody is, interested in learning Olympic weightlifting or kind of built for it. Yeah. So it's not the best setup either to coach out of Virgin Active. We don't have platforms. So only my clients who really want to learn it are really interested in the sport, then we'll coach. But majority of people won't be Olympic weightlifting. But I'll put aspects of it in there, like, push press and behind the neck push press and stuff that we use in Olympic weightlifting. I'll give my other clients who aren't learning Olympic weightlifting, because I still think it's a valuable thing to do, and keeps it more interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm guessing if you had someone who you thought was a good candidate for it, that as a coach you'd be like, awesome, now I get to coach you this thing that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but not everybody's built for it. They're definitely not.
Is that somewhere where you'd like to go, like say full-time weightlifting coaching?
We'll see. I don't know if there's, we'll see where the demand is for that, really. Like, it is a very niche sport. I think it is, like you said, it's gotten very popular recently. CrossFit kind of did that. But weightlifting is where I'm most engaged, and I find it the most interesting to coach. So we'll see. No huge plans at the moment, but I do enjoy coaching it.
Here's a question for you.
Yes.
Does weightlifting make women bulky?
Oh, well.
Because there's a lot of women out there that are like, I don't want to get bulky.
I can't believe that women still think that, to be honest. When I started PTing, I heard that a lot, and I was quite surprised.
It's so prevalent.
No, it doesn't make you bulky. No.
What do you mean? Lifting weights? Like, explain to me why it doesn't.
Well, I think that when you look at on an Olympic weightlifter, we have weight classes in Olympic weightlifting. So the smallest weight class is, I think, 49 kilos. And those females are tiny. I mean, the men but the women, we'll talk specifically to women, are very small. It's an explosive sport. We're building muscle, but we're also powerful as well. We're not going to get bulky because it's the muscle fibers and what we're using for the sport. We're not looking to be a bodybuilder, and we're not looking to just concentrate on muscle mass. It's all about that explosive power as well.
Efficiency.
Yeah. But even when women do lift weights, say in more of a bodybuilding format, just generally, they're not going to get bulky because it takes a long time to put on muscle. And it takes a lot of training and a lot of eating.
A lot of it. I fought hard to get to where I am.
Yeah. I've been strength training for doing some sort of strength training for 11 years now, and I know how slowly muscle goes on, and women seem to think they'll pick it up once, and that'll be them looking like one of the Schwarzenegger, or one of the female bodybuilders who are on the gear, and the amount of training that they do is just unreal. But the ladies want to look toned. That's what they want. So
toned.
That's the word.
That's the word.
And what is toned?
That's why I ask people. I was like, what do you think? What does tone mean for you?
Toned is an absence of body fat, which allows muscle to show.
It's lean muscle mass, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're scared to use the word muscle.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's moving in the right direction, but there's definitely still that fear of women looking bulky. But I don't know where that comes from and why there's the worry of looking bulky. Less feminine. I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. It is a very interesting one. I think
probably changing now.
Somewhat, yeah. But I think there's also another side of it, which is because it's like when often guys, I remember if I'm consulting with a guy who, take a guy who doesn't train, right? And was talking about coming to train. Something that I'll hear quite often is, oh, like I'll say, why do you want to train here? Like, what is it that you're looking for? And often I'll hear, oh, I don't want to get like big, like, and I'm like, who said anything about getting big? Like, where did that enter your mind, right? But it's almost like they're projecting some kind of, and I say this with the utmost of respect for any individual that I'm referring to, but it's almost like they're projecting their own insecurities about, so they're like maybe they're looking at me or they're looking at other guys in the gym and they're like, those guys look big and I could never get, like, I don't have what it takes to be that. So I'm just going to say right now, I don't want to get big, but I just want to get fit. But do you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah.
Whereas a woman's like, oh, I don't want to get bulky. It's like, well, wait, why don't you, like, I don't, yeah, it's like a funny projection kind of thing about, something that's been mulling over in their mind a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, I mean, there's popular culture kind of stereotypes mixed in there, as well as just a lack of education, as well as a lack of kind of, not like of self, like what do I actually want? Like how many, like a lot of people know they want something from this place and it's good and they want to be healthier and stuff and look better, feel better, but they just don't know how to explain it when they get here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what are the words that I see and I know, and they just start using that language.
It's true.
I think we also have a very warped view of our body image nowadays, and just from, the people we see in the media and on social media. And, I've had a girl say to me, I want a big bum, but I don't want my legs big. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know what to do with that, I just, So everybody wants to go with that look of the small waist and big bum and small legs. And, it's just, where did this idea of this is, I don't know. Body types always go through phases, don't they? And we seem to be in that phase of more women lifting and getting strong, which is good, but it's too much for aesthetics and just thinking I should be big here and small here. And rather than thinking about, I want my body to do this. And that's why I love Olympic weightlifting as well. I love feeling strong, but I also like to see what my body can do rather than what I look like. So
yeah. And there's some, I totally know what you mean. And there's got to be some satisfaction in being able to walk into a gym and look strong, but then also be able to do something that's obviously required years of training to be able to get to. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Speaking of that, how much do you lift?
How much do I lift?
Give us some numbers, Joe Taylor.
Where do I start? We'll start with snatch. 61 kilos in snatch, which is just over my body weight. I will compete in the 59 weight class. So not a huge snatch number, but,
very respectable.
It's okay. Clean and jerk, 76 kilos. What else do we have? Squat. My best back squat is 125 kilos. Best front squat is 100 kilos. Best deadlift is my deadlift sucks, 130. Should be more. If I can squat 125, I should be able to deadlift a lot more than 130.
What would you like? It should be around 150, 140.
Probably, yeah. Just much stronger in my quads. Yeah.
Is that typical of a weightlifter to be stronger in the quads?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Yep. Definitely comparatively to, like, say, a powerlifter. Yeah.
Yeah. That's some big numbers. 125 back squat.
Yes, I hit that recently. I think it was end of last year. Yeah.
Right on.
I didn't even work towards that. I just kind of was like to the guys in the gym, I kind of want to see what I could squat. And they're like, let's do it. So that's just the number that went up. I was pretty surprised.
And over, say, how often do you train per week?
I train 5 days a week.
5 days a week?
Yeah, for about 2 hours.
Okay.
Training sessions.
And roughly. How many kilos would you expect to have on your snatch by this time next year? Just in a rough approximation?
Like I was saying, I hit a point and I kind of just couldn't get past it. And for me, that was, I think, just maybe 59 kilos, 58 on the snatch. And I broke that plateau at my last competition. So to be honest, I'm hoping and I'm aiming to get to a 65 kilo snatch, and I'm hoping to do that at end of this year. But that's that's a fairly significant jump, but we'll see. I had a little bit of time off of weightlifting as well, so I've kind of gone on and off a wee bit, so that's kind of affected being able to hit bigger numbers. So yeah, we'll see if I can get there, but
I'm following this journey now.
yes.
Hashtag
yes.
no days off.
Yeah.
Well, 2 days off.
2 days off.
No days, but 2 days.
What does the program look like right now? Can I ask?
That I'm following.
Yeah.
Yep. We're in a more of a volume phase, so it'll be lighter weights, higher volume. And then the reps and sets and weight changes from each session to each week. We'll be going into like a heavier phase next week. I actually missed the last heavy week because I was away. And that would have been a good chance to test, but I missed it because I was away having too much fun. But that's all right. Next week we might, and it all depends on the training session. If things are going well, then just keep going up and see what you can do.
How many strength days are there, or how compared to like the skill days, say, or like how is it organized on a 5-day spread?
It's all skill days, and you always have your squats in there or a deadlift day. Yeah. So you'll always be working on snatch or the clean and jerk or some sort of overhead pressing, and you'll pretty much always have pulls in there. So that's pulling the barbell off the ground and shrugging. And
then you go
you'll
heavy,
have a lot of that, yeah.
Go
heavy with your pulls, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And then there'll be some squat or deadlift every day as well?
pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Depends on the program. People don't always squat every day, but we tend to squat a fair amount, especially with like a cambered bar or safety bar, that kind of thing, if you guys know what those are.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Cambered bars got the bend?
Yeah, it's got a big bend in it, so it's really unstable. Yeah.
Okay, that's the idea.
The plates will swing around, so you've got to really work hard to stabilize yourself in the bottom position. And
cool.
It works a lot of core and back as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need to have a nice strong core and back in Olympic weightlifting as well. So we do a lot of strength work and core work and stuff.
On core, do you what specific core stuff do you do for Olympic lifting? And I guess I ask because I see that it is very just the movements in themselves require very strong core. Do you do specific core work?
Not really. Not.
Do you sit ups?
Something not really sit ups. Yeah. Nah.
No.
Isometric stuff like planks, side planks, and leg raises, and I'll do the V-ups and that kind of thing. Yeah, just whatever I feel like that keeps it a bit interesting. Yeah, but you're also working your core pretty hard when you're when you're actually doing.
I guess that's
Olympic
what I'm pointing towards.
So you don't need to do a huge amount of core work. Yeah.
I saw. I was looking at your coach's bio the other day, and I saw that you did the Australian Weightlifting Federation Level 1 course.
Level 1 coaching course. Yeah.
I did that some years ago.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Back in the day.
I saw that on your profile. I was checking yours out too.
Oh, thanks. I really enjoyed that. It was interesting going into that environment that's like weightlifting specialists.
Yeah.
Where they were like, that's all they know.
Yeah. Who took it? Do you remember?
The guy at the dock was there.
Yep.
Or Doc.
Yes.
He was there, but it was more facilitated by Leon. Is it Leon? Shorter guy, maybe British accent, very friendly fella.
No, I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was facilitated by him. And I remember there was a bunch of people there. There was a competitive weightlifter who was there. I believe he competes for New South Wales, maybe Australia. He's blind.
Oh, yes.
You know
I
him?
know him. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Malek, I think. Yeah, very impressive. Yeah. Completely blind Olympic weightlifter, high level. Yeah, I think he's national level. Yes. So completely blind Olympic lifter. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, he's very, very good.
Yeah, it was.
So
it
he was
cool.
doing the course with you.
He was doing the course too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Really
I think
impressive.
we got a bit of time in the afternoon to like have a play around the weights room.
Yeah.
And like all of us were like hacks. And then there was him.
You're just watching.
And he's just this fucking savage. And he can't see you watching him, like everyone's like, hey, like it was really cool.
Yeah. Just goes to show you don't need to look in a mirror to do Olympic weightlifting.
I really can't even, of course you can't, of course I can't imagine what it's like to be blind, but just, like engaging in that kind of lifting at the loads that you are required to lift at a competitive level, it's mind-boggling.
He lifts heavy?
Yeah.
He must lift heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Huge weights.
Jesus.
Yeah. I wouldn't know what he does, but it's, he lifts really, really big weights. Yeah. Really impressive.
I follow this skateboarder who's blind. I think he's like 80% blind. He was a pro skater first. Was this gentleman born blind?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes,
It's a bit different for the skater who was a pro skater and then he had some sort of degenerative thing going on with him. So he had that muscle memory. It's a bit different, but yeah, it's incredible. He's 80% blind and he's on these ramps doing flips and all sorts of shit. Grinds.
Does he just skate ramp or does he go?
He goes out on the street or on flat ground as well, and he'll often use a cane for that. Otherwise, he does a lot of mini ramp and bowl.
He uses a cane while he's skating.
Yeah, just to like know where the gutter is, and then it's like
incredible.
Boom. I'm talking like, kick flip to lip slide, freaking, and then varial out and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Oh my God.
I'll share it with you. Yeah, and then mini ramp is, doesn't need the stick necessarily because he's got a gauge for it. Anyway, yeah, it's insane, how like human beings.
Yeah.
Incredible, eh?
Yeah. The shit we can do when we're like pushed into a corner. What do you think are the big takeaways for like a beginner weightlifter, just to end on, for someone who's coming into it and they're like, yeah, I really like you were inspired when you saw someone doing it. And then, it's like, I'm inspired. I like it. I'm here. What should I know coming into this?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to make sure you get coaching, and to not just try and, learn it by yourself. So number one thing is find a coach. Just take your time with it, be patient and learn, stay on the broomstick for ages, learn the correct positioning and get comfortable with the movement and then just drill the barbell as much as you can. And, like I said before, if people just like really, really keen to get some weights on and, then you kind of mess up you can do it to a certain extent. You can rely on your strength, but that will only take you so far. So if you learn really good positioning in the beginning and you put that time on just the barbell, then you're going to like progress so much quicker. For me, it was quite a slow progression because I learned quite a few bad habits earlier on that took a while to unlearn. It's all that muscle memory and that had been learned, and I had to unlearn that. And so taking your time with it, really being patient, get good coaching, and have fun with it, as well.
I like it.
Yeah.
Paulie?
Yeah.
You got anything to add to that?
Oh, not really. Probably something I learned from, I think it was you, approach it approach the sport. It's a technical sport type of thing. So like approach it like you would something that's complex and tough. Like,
you're going to suck at it?
You're going to suck at it, but listen to the cues, come back, repeat everything that we've taught you. The positions, try to listen to what the positions are and do them every time. When we add a layer, do everything that you just learned and then add that layer. So it's a real kind of vehicle for someone to kind of learn how to learn, and it'll expose that. I try to get people to kind of approach it technically, because there's a lot of aspects to it, which you just have to pass through those gates in order to move forward with it. So approach it that way, if that makes sense.
I like that. Learn how to learn. Coach Joe,
yes.
Where can people find you?
Oh,
you have an Instagram
Joey,
account,
you
I
can
believe.
find me on Instagram. Yes, you can. I'm Coach Joe Taylor, I believe it is.
Very
yes,
nice.
That's my Instagram. That's probably the best place where people can find me. Yeah.
Very cool. And if they want to do PT, you got spaces for that?
I do, yes, yeah. So you can reach out to me on Instagram and we can have a chat. And if you want to talk a little bit more about Olympic weightlifting or general strength training, then I'm happy to sit down and we can talk more about it. Just, reach out on Instagram. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
I thought that you did really, really well on your first podcast, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
I agree.
Guys, thank you for listening. That was episode 103 or thereabouts. 8th and 9th of May, we have our Coaches Intensive coming up. That is a 2-day version of our 12-week coaches internship. So the internship we've been running for years, we've decided to compress it down into 2 massive days over 1 weekend. 8th and 9th of May, it's open to anyone, whether you have coaching experience or not. And we even have people stepping into it who are not actively trying to become a coach, but they are interested in the skill sets that we believe a good coach should have. So we're talking about how to communicate well in front of a group, how to be a figure of authority, leadership within the group, programming, sales, marketing, all that stuff that a good coach and a good PT requires. So if you want more information on that, you can get in touch with us at Jungle Brothers Movement on Instagram, or if you want to go to the website, junglebrothers.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
See ya.